Wind up, Jason! Your work isn't finished!
This is a one-time gig. When it's done, we're done.
Let's dance, asshole!
So happy Friday, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about another cartoon that I absolutely loved watching growing up as a kid, and the cartoon that I am referring to is The Misadventures of Flapjack. And it was only a matter of time before we started talking about this cartoon on the channel because Flapjack was a very fun cartoon. It used to make me laugh every single time I was watching it, and it was very unique around its time, especially when it came to a lot of the other shows that was out on Cartoon Network. And just thinking about Flapjack right now at this very moment, it just really makes me wish I was there in that moment back then, all those years ago, so I can experience that era of Cartoon Network all over again. But before I jump into this video and I start talking about Flapjack, if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to Flapjack, if there's anything in specific that you guys want to say about the series, as always, be sure to let me know down below. And without further ado, let's jump into this because now it is time to talk about some Flapjack. So probably the very first thing that I do want to talk about when it comes to Flapjack is the unique art style and world building to the show, because every cartoon around its time had this unique art style that really helped it stand out, and Flapjack was definitely another one of those shows. And also, world building is always something very interesting to dive into because I just love seeing how the world is expanded as you're watching these various series out there. So The Misadventures of Flapjack stands out with its unique animation, blending traditional 2D with moments of stop motion and live action, creating a visual experience that's both whimsical and eerie. And the exaggerated facial expressions, often grotesque, give characters like Captain Knuckles and Flapjack a distinctive and memorable look. And this art style complements the imaginative, sometimes grim world of Stormalong Harbor, a strange and rickety place filled with odd shops and bizarre creatures. And the combination of the washed out sepia-toned palette and surreal dream sequences add to the show's offbeat tone, immersing viewers in a fantastical world that feels unpredictable and exciting. And the world building extends beyond the tone into the vast, mysterious sea, which serves as both a character and a setting in its own right. And Flapjack's endless quest for adventure, especially his dream of reaching Candy Island, take him and Captain Knuckles into strange and dangerous waters. And the show's unpredictable world offers endless possibilities for mischief, discovery, and danger, from battling sea monsters to running into candy pirates. This whimsical and immersive world is one of the many reasons the show remains very captivating. And that's one of the things that I loved about Flapjack growing up as a kid is the art style, because around its time, I never really saw anything else like Flapjack that just had all these different kinds of art styles going on at once. Like we discussed, it had some traditional 2D animation, which is pretty much a mainstay that we see with a lot of these different cartoons, but it also had like some little live action sequences here and there. It also had some clay animation around its time, and that's something that really stood out when it came to this show, like we went over. And just in general, like I said in the beginning, I just really love world building when it comes to anything, because I always love to see exactly what sort of direction the series can take when it comes to expanding on the overall world of that said show. And Flapjack definitely did that, especially since it is a show where, you know, Flapjack and Captain Knuckles go on many adventures. So it really shouldn't be that hard to really expand on the world, since they're always in the water, going to various places to discover exactly what's out there. And now we got to give some love to the characters in Flapjack as well, because when it comes to all these different kinds of series out there, it's the characters that really make the show. It's the characters that really make the show stand out. And I want to take some time to discuss the various characters throughout Flapjack, because trust me, there's a lot of different characters to have these distinct personalities that really help them stand out in the show. Because at the heart of Flapjack is its lovable trio when it comes to Flapjack, Captain Knuckles, and Bubby. And Flapjack's wide-eyed innocence and boundless optimism contrast sharply with Captain Knuckles' grumpy, self-serving nature, creating this dynamic that feels much of a humor and heart of the show. And despite Knuckles' constant missteps, Flapjack looks up to him, seeing him as a legendary adventurer. And Bubby, The talking whale who raised Flapjack provides a nurturing presence, offering guidance while still supporting Flapjack's desire for adventure. And the other supporting characters of Stormalong Harbor, like Dr. Barber with his creepy fascination with surgery, and Peppermint Larry with his eccentric candy shop, adds layers of oddity and dark humor to the show. And each quirky character helps flesh out the strange and unpredictable world that Flapjack lives in. And these unique personalities, from the townsfolk to the sea creatures they meet on their adventures, contribute to the show's charm, making every episode feel fresh and full of surprises. And to just give my own personal thoughts when it comes to these characters in Flapjack, you know, I love Flapjack because he's a vibe. He's always out there trying to go on an adventure, and that's something that I could always root him for, so he could reach Candy Island. And then of course you have Captain Knuckles, which, you know, is grumpy at times and doesn't really like doing this and that, but still it's very interesting to see how Captain Knuckles and Flapjack's relationship expands throughout the series. And Bubby's always been super awesome when it comes to her supporting Flapjack. Peppermint Larry and Dr. Barber are just very strange characters, especially when it comes to the facial expressions that they make in the series, when it comes to certain moments that they're trying to highlight throughout the show. And it definitely makes you feel uncomfortable when it comes to like a lot of these sequences that we went over earlier when it talked about like the unique art style. I mean, that definitely extends when it comes to the characters, because I kid you not, there's probably a lot of memes that you could probably take out of the show if you wanted to like screenshot something and use it as a meme online. There's definitely a lot of facial expressions that you could use throughout the show. And I guess you could say that Flapjack is like a non-stop meme machine where you could just make endless memes out of this show. Now I want to talk about the dark and offbeat humor when it comes to Flapjack, because when it comes to a lot of these other series out here as well, Flapjack has its own unique way of showing off its humor in the show, which is, you know, nice to have something unique to the show. And also when it comes to the influences, other classic cartoons that we grew up watching, that is very apparent when you're watching this show, and we will dive into that right now, going over exactly what I mean by that. So one of the most appealing aspects of Flapjack is its dark, offbeat humor, because the show balances Flapjack's innocent with creepy, almost surreal elements, creating a comedic tension that keeps viewers engaged. Characters like Dr. Barber that we went over, when it comes to his unsettling love of haircuts, bring a twisted edge to the humor, while moments of bizarre horror like Flapjack's hallucinations add to the show's eerie yet funny atmosphere. And the combination of obscurity and the grotesque gives Flapjack a unique comedic vibe that sets it apart from other cartoons. And drawing inspiration from classic adventure and nautical cartoons, Flapjack feels like a modern take on the old-time seafaring tales of shows like Popeye or The Adventures of Tintin. And its slapstick humor and episodic misadventures reflect the influence of traditional cartoons while pushing the boundaries of darker themes and modern animation styles. And this blending of old school cartoon influences with fresh contemporary storytelling allowed Flapjack to stand out, offering something nostalgic yet entirely new for audiences. And that's the thing about Flapjack, because like I mentioned before, you know, it's a meme machine. And Flapjack definitely did not shy away when it came to, you know, showcasing that dark humor throughout the show, like we discussed, because there's a lot of moments throughout Flapjack, if you have seen the series, that you could definitely remember that really brought you to a moment where you're like, okay, what the hell am I watching right now? And that's just the thing about Flapjack, is that it just did things that it want that really helped it stand out. And I also didn't help to notice, you know, when I was watching this show, like we went over, seeing that sort of influence when it came to shows like Popeye, which wasn't a show that I grew up with because I wasn't born around the time, but I still saw, you know, a couple episodes here and there. Like I did have my good fair share of Popeye, but definitely, you know, watching Popeye and looking at Flapjack, you could definitely see that comparison there when it comes to the whole world, where you're exploring the sea and you're discovering all these different parts of the world when you're out there. And that's something that Flapjack definitely takes in when it comes to the overall influence in the show, whenever you see these different kinds of adventures that Flapjack and Captain Knuckles and Bubby is going on. And I want to talk about the charming narration and also the unexpected life lessons that we took in when we were watching Flapjack as well, because Flapjack, like I said, has that vibe to it, and the charming narration definitely adds to that as well. And also the unexpected life lessons, like we've discussed before in numerous videos, is something that we don't really take in as kids, but looking back at it as an adult, it definitely lets you know, okay, this is what the show was telling us around this time. Because when it comes to Flapjack, you know, he has this childlike perspective, which is just a key part of what makes the show so charming. When it comes to his unwavering trust in Captain Knuckles and his belief that every adventure will lead to greatness, just gives the show an innocent yet whimsical tone. And even when faced with danger, Flapjack's optimism and enthusiasm never waver, making him an endearing protagonist that viewers can root for. And his relationship with Captain Knuckles, who he is constantly failing and leading him into trouble, only strengthens the show's narrative charm, as Flapjack always sees the best in him. And beneath all the mischief, Flapjack offers meaningful lessons about friendship, loyalty, and curiosity, because Flapjack's relentless pursuit of adventure, no matter how perilous, encourages viewers to embrace their dreams. Even when the odds are stacked against them, his loyalty to Captain Knuckles, despite the latter's flaws, highlight the importance of sticking by those you care about. And these subtle life lessons add depth to the show, making it more than just a lighthearted adventure series, but a source of inspiration and heart. And that's something that I absolutely loved about Flapjack. I mean, that's probably why Flapjack is one of my favorite characters when it comes to the overall series, because he's a vibe, like I've mentioned several times throughout this video. And it's just really nice to see that, you know, he has this unique way of looking at things, and he's always in a good mood, and he's always looking up to Captain Knuckles. Despite half the shit that they get themselves into, it's just really nice to see that sort of relationship carried throughout the series that really adds to the charming narrative like we discussed. And talking about my own personal thoughts when it comes to the life lessons, you know, that's something I didn't take in as a kid, but looking at it now makes sense. Like we went over, you know, the whole relationship with Flapjack and Knuckles is a perfect example when it comes to the life lessons that the show is teaching us when it was going on. And the last thing I do want to talk about that I gotta give some credit for is the voice acting, because when it comes to the voice acting in a lot of these different shows, the voice acting is what really brings these characters to life and makes these characters feel so special. So we have to take some time and talk about that, along with the nostalgia factor, because like this video as a whole, you know, this is just me giving love back to Flapjack just because of the childhood memories that I was able to experience with this show. Because like I said, you know, the voice cast brings Flapjack's unique characters to life with these unforgettable performances. Throughout Van Orman's portrayal of Flapjack perfectly captures the character's enthusiasm and childlike innocence, while Brian Doyle Murray's bravely jaded voice as Captain Knuckles adds a layer of cynicism and humor, and Roz Ryan's soothing maternal performance as Bubby provides a comforting balance to the chaos, creating a well-rounded cast that adds emotional depth to the show. And the combination of these strong performances allows the humor and emotional moments to shine. And even years after its original airing, The Misadventures of Flapjack maintains a devoted fan base, and the show's mix of quirky humor, dark undertones, and nostalgic influences has made it a cult favorite, and it also laid the groundwork for future shows like Adventure Time, as Pendleton Ward, who worked on Flapjack, also went on to create his own iconic series. And the influence of Flapjack on modern animation is clear, and its dedicated fan base continues to celebrate it as a trailblazer for a more unconfidential and experimental storytelling in cartoons. So in the end, The Misadventures of Flapjack remains a beloved piece of animation for its whimsical world, quirky humor, and endearing characters, and its ability to blend innocence with darker, surreal elements made it a show that resonates with audiences young and old. And the unique animation style, coupled with the unforgettable voices behind the characters, gave the show its own special flavor. For fans of alternative offbeat cartoons, Flapjack holds a special place, and its influence can still be seen in animation today, and it's no wonder that it's hard not to love The Misadventures of Flapjack. So overall, those are all my thoughts on Flapjack. I'm just really glad that we have the opportunity to talk about Flapjack, because if there was one show that really stood out that was definitely very bizarre and it just had that little vibe with it that you can't really forget about, then you got to bring up Flapjack, because it definitely fits in that category. So if you guys have any thoughts of your own when it comes to Flapjack, like if there's anything in specific that you guys want to say, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, be sure to let me know now in the comment section down below, because I would absolutely love to know all of your thoughts on Flapjack. And if you guys enjoy this video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Also, be sure to check out my social media when it comes to my Twitter, my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Facebook. All of that is located in the description below. Be sure to click on the bell for notifications so you guys notified whenever I upload a video on the channel. But other than that, I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be, if it's the daytime, the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.